certainly if there's Armenians that want to reach out to me who want to travel there or support the economy or our projects, I think that there's much to see. Although this year has changed things quite a bit, I'll go into some of the changes that happened recently, but let's get back to the what we do over there. So this is Artsakh. This is a picture of the region that was devastated. This is their iconic symbol. It is a giant statue of Mamik and Babik, which is mother and father. And it's a symbol that no matter who has tried to displace Armenians, the core thing that keeps them going is family. And I think we've all learned that this year, that family is really what drives not only a nation, but a culture, an ethnic background, race. I mean, what makes us all unique is our family. And so this is symbolic, and unfortunately, I don't know if it's still standing. Having done so much work with the military personnel that have defended that region, I actually was awarded something I probably don't deserve, which is a Medal of Honor in the Artsakh Army. I don't believe that anyone who has not been in the line of fire, maybe I'm wrong, has been awarded this medal. So you can see the direct relationship that we have with the military. The military is the people that we depend on to keep the area safe. They're on 24-hour watch for the last 20 years. And I didn't understand why until a few months ago. So this is us, obviously pre-pandemic. I wouldn't call me out for any PPP violations. There's no OSHA over there. We were unable to secure an autoclave, and we've used cold sterile and heat sterilization for everything, along with disposable things that we donate. I do have my mask off, but that was for the picture. So don't get the impression that we are working without proper PPE. We've had multiple doctors, including Garo Nazarian from Manhattan and Charlie and Vikon from California that I've mentioned already, and Robert Garabedian and others who have come and helped us. And what we've done is we've taken the opportunity to take dental students to get them some on-site legal dental training. We've also taken the liberty to train dentists from Armenia. So when I go over there and I'm working on these patients, they speak a dialect of Armenian, which is Eastern dialect. After the genocide in 1915, the diaspora, or the people from Armenia or Armenian roots who do not live in Armenia, we call them the diaspora, they speak Western Armenian. So when I brought these Armenian-speaking dentists from America, they were having trouble communicating with the kids. Now, my Armenian isn't great, but I do speak pretty good dental Armenian, and I do know how to communicate with things like open wider, open big, where does it hurt, are you numb yet, where's the pain? You know, these type of things were pretty easy, but translating, we felt that training Armenian dentists and making sure communication lines were good was so important. But what we didn't realize is we took a lot of dentally trained Armenian dentists who, by the way, are very good, like all Russian dentists, at surgery. You know, the blood and guts of what I call military dentistry is very simple. It's something that we all went through in the spring. If you don't know how to do a surgical extraction or a molar root canal, you're really not going to be of a whole lot of help. Now, we don't do a lot of crowns, but to preserve tooth structure and bone jaw support, what we would do is in a 14-year-old kid who has bombed out molars, we would do the endo and do some kind of buildup and amalgam or use remaining tooth structure to try to save the tooth. Military dentistry is pretty simple. It means that you may not be able to do a follow-up visit for the patient, which means we did use amalgam because I think its survival rate without any preventative care is a little bit better than composite, especially for large restorations. We did a lot of extractions to get people out of pain, to get rid of compromised, fractured, or beyond restorability teeth. Being able to do surgery and root canals is so important when you're doing this, and I still think it's so important to dentistry to be able to serve your patients. I think doing military dentistry, as you can see, it requires people to work on patients and try to complete as many treatment plans as possible. We worked 16 hours a day in the dental clinics, and we provide as much care as possible. This is Kevin Bargamian from Chicago, and this is Vikon Garabedian with me. A patient here is a high sorp or a bishop from Georgia for Armenians, and when he heard that we were in town, he drove all the way down to Sunik to see us because he had a dental problem. So when word gets out that we're in the country, people do know us. This is one of my original crews. I'm so proud of them. They were assistants, and they helped us back in 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, and they're all successful dentists in their own right. Maher is an amazing dentist in Spain doing a lot of bone grafting and implants now and sinus lifts, and he teaches at the university, and seeing where he started and where he's at now is so proud of how he's been able to make the most of his career. Arman is with the black hat in the background, is now practicing in Southern California because he won the lottery to get a visa, which isn't easy. Things have been tough for them in Armenia. There are people that help us. The gentleman all the way to my left at the end is Hovig. Hovig is a physician radiologist in Yerevan and has dedicated his life to helping us. He's been my personal driver and protector, and you know, driving through some of these roads, his car is considered an ambulance, so we don't get stopped by the normal military personnel and other types of things. And there is a bishop in Sunik. His name is Ibrahim. Ibrahim has helped us make these projects come true. In the background is sunset at Noravank. And Noravank is certainly an interesting area. I'm going to go back to the map for a minute. Noravank is near the bottom of the purple region here, just below Yerignatsor. Noravank is a unique place where a several $million project was done over the last 10 years to renovate that 11th century church. And a lot of the renovations of these churches have been done over the years because of their historical significance. And unfortunately, over the last 90 days, things took a turn for the worse. The area in the shaded, surrounded by the shaded region, was lost in a short war with Azerbaijan. This territory had been disputed, and without being able to come to a reasonable resolution for both sides, Azerbaijan enlisted the help of Turkey, and Turkey utilized weapons through NATO that were developed by Israeli and US weapons scientists. And to be honest, what they created was pretty amazing. They created it to try to find and root out Osama bin Laden in the mountains of Afghanistan. The mountainous region in that area is similar terrain. They approached an enemy in the Armenians who had been rooted and settled and defending those mountains for centuries. They maintained the high ground, and unfortunately for everyone, they basically took a lot of the ethnic minority in Azerbaijan. They coerced, forced, blackmailed, whatever you want to say, to try to be the first wave over the mountain to retake what they said is their land. Now, in retrospect, Azerbaijan was created in the late 80s in preparation for the dissolution of the Soviet Union. And so I think that the Armenians, having lived in this region for centuries, and when I show you these churches that are centuries old, and you have generation upon generation of people that have lived in that area, it's not so easy to just tell people to go move somewhere else or go back to a different region. These are the same people that have made the trek up the mountain every day to go to service. I think that these churches have stood the test of time because they're fortresses. There's an area in Artsakh called Ganzazar, which is kind of like the movies Lord of the Rings. I mean, you know, it looks completely surreal and pictures don't do it justice. There was a priest who decided that he was not going to leave that church during the First War. And they had about 300 to 500 Azeri soldiers try to secure the region and the church. Der Hovannes is his name. I've met him many times. Der Hovannes in English is Father John. And our nickname for him is Rambo. He kind of looks like John Wayne, about 6'5", 230, 225, big dude. He defended that church by himself. He would climb at night into the mountains and fire at the Azerbaijan troops, and then hike around to the other side and fire from the other side. And eventually they left because they thought that they were surrounded by an invisible Armenian army, which turned out to be one guy. After this recent turmoil, 2018, I had run into him in Dadivank. Dadivank is a very old church where different frescoes from pre-BC were discovered, and architectural archaeologists from Europe, Italy, all over the world came, and they were studying that church. And I happened to run into him there. And you know, he was on to the next challenge of trying to preserve these incredible treasures of history. And sure enough, when this turmoil broke out in September, he refused to leave, and some of our soldiers remained behind in disregard for the treaty, and eventually the Russian troops have helped protect that area. But this is what we're talking about as far as once the initial wave was met, and a lot of the initial citizens, I want to call them, because I don't believe that they were soldiers, met an untimely demise at the hands of the Armenian military. They then broke out the Turkish military support, and the Azerbaijans rolled out these new drones. And basically they were able to root out most of the area with relentless bombing of ballistic missiles of the newest technology, and also using drones to reclaim the highland. They put them in a very bad position, and then they signed a treaty which gave this land back to Azerbaijan. Now you'll notice there's an area right in front of Bedzor, or Lachim corridor, as we call it, the one connecting place, and that's Sushi. Well, part of the treaty calls for the Azerbaijan military to park in Sushi right in front of our front door there. And then they've cut off the rest of Artsakh. And so I am very fearful that going forward, that we're not only going to lose an iconic bell tower church that had been renovated 150 years ago, which they blew up on the first day. They're also blowing up Armenian cemeteries, and they're trying to erase any record of Armenian culture in what they are now claiming as their own region. It's very sad, and I didn't want to get into the political stuff. This is where it gets kind of soul crushing for me after spending so much of my time, money, and effort to try to build up and resurrect this incredibly history-rich area of the world, only to watch it be destroyed in a month or two. So since then, we have taken refugees, mostly women and children, who fled the fighting and who had their homes destroyed by ballistic missiles, which, by the way, didn't miss anything with our technology. They pretty much hit every structure they aimed at. And so if there was anything left behind, I'm pretty sure they kind of set it afire and left. Most of the structures are cement, and so they didn't leave any personal belongings behind. And so we thought temporarily, until there's a treaty or a truce, that we could house these people in our clinic. And you know, there is a resort that we were able to build called Lucy Tour. And Lucy Tour is located in Viat Zor, and Viat Zor just near our camp and dental clinics. We built this for two reasons. You know, spending all this time, a couple weeks a summer with orphan kids. And when I say orphan kids, I really mean children who may have a mother or grandmother or both, but don't have older brothers or fathers or grandfathers because of the fighting. And I think that those kids are always given an opportunity to get the free dental care. And then we also wanted a place where people could come and visit the area in comfort, you know, a little bit closer to a resort like you would find in Yerevan. And this is really the only facility outside of Yerevan that kind of is really cool to stay at. And there's horseback riding, and there's all kinds of things that you can do there with a pool and a little bit better accommodations than the camp. And so we did install a dental clinic at the resort, and we did continue to finance our dental clinics with the 3 chairs in Yeragis, which is what I call Jambar, where we started and where we continue to see patients every summer. But we also got 2 mobile clinics, which I'll get into in a minute. During all of the fighting, we took in about 300 refugees, and other places across Armenia took in refugees. We're still housing those 300 refugees, and there's other places that are doing the same. We are financing the clothing, the heating, the feeding, housing of these people. We've raised enough money to build a school. And so, you know, these things are things that we've been able to do during a horrible crisis. So it's not just about providing dentistry, and it's not just about providing dentistry for the military, which was always one of our focuses, but this is a bus that we created. So we started out with 1 bus, and the bus would go down to the poorest regions of the mountain area, and we would service the people in that village until we got everybody taken care of. The assistants that we used during our 2 weeks there that we trained were some of the dentists that would man these mobile clinics. And the mobile clinics ran all year round with our funding. The mobile clinics serviced most of Sunik and Viat Zor area. Each of the dentists were paid by us to give free services. We supplied all the dental supplies, and there's a lot of logistics about getting supplies and dental needed materials into and equipment into the country that you want to do work in. The mobile clinics are nothing more than buses that we've retrofitted with 2 dental chairs, units with everything that you would need, and an x-ray unit. Patient comes into the bus and they get treatment. This is our newest bus, which we had retrofitted in 17, and we were going to get up and running after the summer of 18. They had a particularly cold winter, and we parked the bus at the military base that is in that region, and they watch over it for us while we continue to do dentistry during the winter months on the military personnel. That military personnel was charged with maintaining the bus. Unfortunately, we had a little mishap with the engine. They drained the water out of the engine, forgot to refill the water when they started it up in the spring. And so that bus went KO'd, and somebody felt so bad for us. We had a benefactor donate us enough money to get another bus up. Now we've repaired the other bus. So we have 2 large buses and a small bus that we've relocated to Yerignatsorr, since that's one of the largest regions in the area. And that region is now currently been doing mobile dental services pro bono since October, end of October, beginning of November, and we'll continue to do so as long as we have funding. We continue to see refugees and take care of them in our 2 clinics, both in Jambar and in Lucitur. An ironic thing about the naming of Lucitur, which I didn't have anything to do with, but my grandmother, who survived the genocide in 1915, well, her name was Lucina, and we called her Grandma Lucy. So this place certainly seems like a second home to me, and we have done a lot for the different people. In the center here is Abraham Sirpaizan, and this was a rare occasion where we were celebrating a wedding, and got to do so together. And it was one of his visits to the US, which is rare. The other thing that we did is, you are looking at a new clinic. This was where we housed the counselors for Jambar. When we would bring the orphan kids to the camp, we would put them up at camp, kind of like sending your kid to summer camp. We had counselors which we housed in these shacks, or kind of minimal insulated buildings across from where the kids stayed, and right on the river. The counselors donated their time to do all kinds of things with the students while they were waiting to get their dentistry done. So the first day you would come in, you would get an assessment. We went through every single kid, did a treatment plan, prophy, fluoride. We chose not to do sealants because under these conditions, an improperly done sealant, according to Dr. Gordon Christensen, can be more detrimental to a tooth than not putting a sealant. And so we don't want to trap any bacteria, create an endo situation, and not be able to do a follow-up. Again, we're doing military dentistry. So we identified every cavity that we could fill. We did those. We took care of any teeth that needed to be extracted, including baby teeth to facilitate occlusion, non-restorable first and second molars. We always have an endodontist going at all times, 12 to 16 hours a day. And we also have an oral surgeon, which just happened to be me most of the time. Unfortunately, we could really use an oral surgeon over there, but I've been able to hold my own, and I've been able to get some surgically done extractions without having a striker or any fancy equipment, without really having much of my own as far as my array of elevators and forceps. And so, you know, you get a 150 or a 151, and you'd be lucky if you get a 77R, if you're lucky if it's sterilized. But, you know, you got basic tools. We joke around, you know, give me a pliers and a screwdriver and I can do it. But that's not quite the truth. We do have a lot of equipment and instruments over there that you need, but certainly this is not 100% everything you need in your office. I think the endo is the most sophisticated because obviously you have to use a rubber dam. Rotary instruments make it so incredibly faster to complete treatment. We don't have the luxury of getting the patient back for a second visit. But over the last month, we have incredibly been able to raise enough money and get enough manpower on the ground to change this into this. These buildings are now housing the new K-8 elementary school. This is the inside. This is all done in the last 2 months. It was directly our money that was funded with the help of Vikan Garabedian and all his generous friends and donors and dentists and Garo Nazarian and Manhattan. But I want to give a shout out to St. Gregory, the Illuminator Armenian Church in Chicago, who also donated money, which I matched. And they wanted to specifically use it for education. And this is specifically for education. You know, anybody who wants to go to Armenia and treat patients can get in touch with me. GratefulDental.com. Anybody who wants to make a donation to try to help this incredibly horrible humanitarian crisis. There's a lot of different things out there, from AGBU Humanitarian Relief Fund to ANCA, ANCA.org, which handles a lot of the political protests and whether or not what Azerbaijan and Turkey did to civilians with internationally banned weapons that were not supposed to be used in that manner for ethnic cleansing. You know, all of that is in international court. A lot of petitions and things need to be signed. Your Congress people need to know that you care. There's also a major push in Armenia to bring education to that region. Bishop Ibrahim has mentioned to me that he's going to really refocus the university down there to heavy mathematics with a gifted program, and really try to focus on the development of modern technology drones. We can see that a future of our survival may rely in drones and not being able to outsmart your opponent in trying to remove from an area. But more importantly, if you want to help our cause and these refugees that we're caring for, we thought was temporary, but looks indefinite at this point. The Meri border of Armenia, which I'll go back to just briefly, is on the southern border where Iran is. And Iran is the only open border down here. Now, originally I had mentioned the breadth that this Meri corridor was going to be turned over to the Azerbaijanis, but the Azerbaijanis tried that, the Russians tried it in the tree, but ultimately Iran said, no way. We are going to control that border. And so that's something that I mentioned to you that I was incorrect about. This border continues to be controlled by Iran, and Iran is trying to help with this unprecedented humanitarian crisis. Russia is now stationed troops around the Lachim corridor. They will stay to up to 5 years to keep the peace, unless one of the sides decides they don't want them anymore, which makes me concerned that the Azerbaijani military, which just moved into Sushi, right in the front of the only way in and out of Artsakh, may ask them to leave. So, you know, this may get worse, it may not. We're hoping for a peaceful resolution, but as of right now, that border remains the only open border. We'll continue to do our thing over there. We'll continue to train Armenians. We'll continue to employ those people to take care of the need of access to care in this region while we're not there. We'll continue to try to focus on education and healthcare. The parosfoundation.org, anybody can make a donation through that website. I want to make it quite clear that Paros Foundation is different than the Red Cross or Armenia Fund, which got a lot of attention because the Kardashians have given millions. Fund for Armenian Relief is another very popular one. There is a lot of entities out there that are doing wonderful work in Armenia. The thing that makes Paros Foundation different, the reason that we took up a partnership with them over the last 10 years is because they have given an administrative pledge that 100% of all the money that you donate with a check or a click to the Paros Foundation, with in the memo of the check, Viatzor Mobile Dental Clinic. Up until recently, it was for the Viatzor refugees. We are now using the refugee fund to change to the mobile dental clinic and encompass the healthcare and education into our project with the 3 mobile buses, 2 dental clinics, and the care of these people and education of their children. So I wanted to point out to everybody that had the courage and the patience to get to this point in the podcast, there's been a lot of misconception about the CARES Act. I don't know how many of you read it, but I want to be quite clear about charitable donations. The CARES Act provided increased tax incentives for charitable giving, allowing you to donate and save on your taxes. This is for 2020 only. Even if you take, whether you take an itemized or standard deduction, even if you take a standard deduction, the law allows you to make a cash donation in 2020 to a nonprofit like ours, which will send you a letter upon receipt of the 501k 100% tax deductible against your tax liability nonprofit. It has all the information you need and a letter thanking you to give to your accountant. You can do up to $300 per tax return and deduct it against your income. That's if you're standardizing deductions. If you are itemizing deductions on your tax return, which a lot of dentists do, or you should be doing, you aren't subject to the $300 limit for charitable donations. In that case, you can elect to deduct cash contributions made this year, meaning to 2020, up to 100% of your adjusted gross income. That means nobody should ever pay taxes for 2020. If you have made a profit and you are showing that you might have a tax liability, you can get rid of that tax liability up from the usual 60%. And this change is only for the tax year 2020, unless Congress extends it. And so what I'm going to ask everybody to do is get their checkbook out and write December 31st, 2020, which is yesterday, and write at least $300 or whatever you can afford to reduce your tax liability exposure come April 15th and put it to a good cause, not just for dentistry, but for the education of oppressed and brutalized people in an humanitarian crisis. To try to care for these people during a winter where they have no clothes, they have no heaters except what we give them, gloves, hats, boots. We are providing all of this, as the AGBU is. 100% of everything that you donate to the Paros Foundation for Viatzor Mobile Dental Clinic will reach these people in its fullest entirety. Now, anybody who knows anything about charitable donations, March of Dimes, Red Cross, who's your favorite, Brett? I don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to go with organizations that don't use the money for administration and salaries and things. So
they're all different, but on their websites, because of a law passed about transparency, there's never 100% of your dollar that gets to what the project is doing. There is 70%, anywhere from 30% to 70% of it that covers administrative costs, pays the people that do it. Everybody involved with what we're doing is doing it without being paid and for the betterment of these people. So, Brett, thanks for letting me get this information out. I can be reached at gratefuldental.com. My website, if you click on the homepage, COVID-19 tab, has all kinds of things about how much vitamin D to take, how much zinc to take to virus-proof your body, what kind of masks are appropriate, how to make a level 2 or better homemade mask, the differences between different masks. It talks about lots of different things, including our projects in Armenia.
Awesome,
So if anybody
man.
needs to reach out to me, gratefuldental.com. If anybody wants to make a donation, parlosfoundation.org. I hope that everybody can find it within their heart to help these Christians who are surrounded by people who would have them leave where they've lived for centuries. And as an Armenian who spent so much time with them, I can promise you they are not going to leave unless it's in a body bag. So let's try to make a situation where that doesn't have to be the solution.
Awesome. Awesome, Jeff. Thank you so much, man. Such an impassioned presentation. So grateful for you and all that you're doing to help other people. You really inspire me in that way. And I want to wish everyone who joined us a very, very happy new year. Jeff, thank you so much. Enjoy the day with your family. Powerlessfoundation.org. Make your donations. I've donated to them. I get that letter that Jeff spoke about in a hot minute after the check goes in. So definitely, please help these people. And Jeff, thank you so much, man. Happy New Year. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for sharing all your knowledge today. You really just such a wealth, such a great resource for all of us. And so here we are, 2021. Let's make it great.
Hey, 2021, thanks for giving me a platform to tell people about some things they may not know about. Unfortunately, hasn't got great coverage in the media. But I think it's important to recognize that there's people that are in need of help. They're fellow Christians, and they really could use our help, not just in dentistry, but giving back to dentistry. I think that there's no better feeling than to give somebody dental health that couldn't afford it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. Beautiful.
2021, let's rock it.
Let's do it. Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks so much, Jeff, and we'll be talking to you soon. Sending love from Chicago, everyone. Bye-bye.